All right, welcome to the show. Welcome to Sanctify Israel Ministries podcast. My name is Jonathan Smith, and today we have a very, very special guest with us. Uh, he is a conference speaker. He is an author. He also has been in the ministry in regards to Jewish evangelism and really educating people on Christianity in regards to its roots with the Jewish people. He is the ministry leader of Shalom and Messiah. So I'm excited to welcome our special guest today, Olivier Melnick. And so thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm
And
very happy to be on your show.
awesome. Yeah. And I'm very excited to talk about this. You just recently released your new book, or it's a new rendition, if I'm not mistaken, of your previous book. Um,
Yeah, it is. In many ways, it is a new book because there's at least 30% of it brand new to catch up with the current events, especially in light of October 7, 2023. So it's a book that basically goes all the way to the end of 2024, as the other one was still had a lot of good information in it as it pertains to historical anti-Semitism, but what it was lacking the most recent current events that I think are really uh, critical to understanding where we're going in terms of Bible prophecy, Israel, end times, and anti-Semitism. So I had to do a major update to that book, and that's what just came out, and that's the book right here, End Times Anti-Semitism, and it's sold anywhere you buy books, including Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that title. I also it's interesting you brought up the fact that things have evolved since you last wrote the book. It almost seems like anti-Semitism evolves as fast as like AI technology or or technology because it's rising so rapidly and so
Yeah.
quickly. And so I'm very grateful you released this new book, Anti-Semitism of the End Times. So I'm excited. We're going to be talking about this book in particular, some of the content that you talked about here. But before we get into that, since you're a first time guest on this show, I really wanted to get into your testimony, how you came to faith as a messianic believer. And I know I read on your ministry website also some of your background that you have family that has firsthand experience that were Holocaust survivors. And so, if we can just briefly touch on your background, your family's background, and how that led to your ministry here today. So, if you don't mind just sharing that with us.
That'd be fine. I was born and raised in Paris, France, not Paris, Texas, and 1959. Um, Secular Jewish family, both parents Jewish, and basically did not was not raised in a religious, kosher Jewish family going to synagogue. Was very, very secular. My dad, his whole life, claimed to be an atheist, and my mother had another challenge or issue. It was the fact that when she was 16, her father was taken by the Gestapo in front of her very eyes, and was put on a train, sent to Auschwitz, and was murdered there in Auschwitz. So she never saw her father again, and that basically put her in a place where she just could not trust God. If God existed, what kind of a God was he to let things like this happen?
Mhm.
Which is a very common Jewish concern, Jewish rejection of the Bible and God in general, a roadblock, I should say. It's
Mhm.
not unusual. So in early 1980s, I met a young Californian girl. Um, Fell in love with her, and then over a summer visit in the States, I came back to France. Then she came to visit me in France, and then she started witnessing to me and telling me about the Bible and the Old Testament prophecies about Jesus. And of course, I knew nothing. I had probably never opened the Bible at that point. And I told her early on. I said, "Listen, you're a Gentile Christian. I'm a Jew. Can we agree to disagree and then love each other and move on?" And she insisted that this was not possible, that she had kept telling me about messianic prophecies of the Hebrew Bible, the Jewish New Testament, Old Testament. And at some point I said, I want to marry you. And she said, absolutely cannot marry you unless we believe the same. So the Bible really was it was a hard book for me because I really did not place a lot of it was like a big book, and I'm always not sure who wrote it, if it's
Mm.
true, and there's the errors. But I kept looking at those prophecies and thought, well, maybe there's something to it. And then she gave me a book called The Late Great Planet Earth, written in the 70s, and a very small book that talked about prophecies of the Old Testament of the first and second coming, and then all the first coming had been fulfilled, as we see in New Testament. It was written by this man called Hal Lindsey, who's with the Lord now. And then I realized, wait a minute, if everything was fulfilled literally, then maybe what's coming will be fulfilled literally. And then I got to the place about the rapture, and I got really scared, and I thought, whoa, it looks like she's going to go and I'm going to stay. And so I asked her, I said, can you stay behind? She goes, no, but you can come with us. And that's pretty much how I gave my life to the Lord, the summer of 1983, July of
Wow.
1980. I don't remember the day, but I remember it was July of 1983, 42 years ago, when I prayed to receive the Lord. And then it was a process of me getting in the Word. It was not one of those, overnight I started reading my Bible for 10 hours a day. You
Mhm.
hear those stories? That was not me. It took a while. As a matter of fact, it took a long time. I remember probably at least the first 5 years of my baby walk with the Lord. Being born in France, in a very secular, liberal, humanistic country in Europe, I had no problem with abortion. I mean, hey, you know what? It's a
Mm.
choice. I mean, I don't know that I would want my wife to do it, but it's a person's choice. I don't care.
Mm.
And it took me about maybe 5 years. I don't know exactly, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 6. But it took me a few years to realize, as after I'd been in the Word for a while, I said, wait a minute, it's murder.
Mm.
And so it was I'm using this example because it was a slow growth into the Lord.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. We moved back to the States, became volunteer workers with the ministry for about 6 years, Jewish ministry out of Seattle. We were based in Seattle. And then we joined full-time another Jewish ministry for 27 years, moved to Chicago, got my undergrad in Jewish studies at Moody Bible Institute. Then I stayed for 27 years. Towards the end of that 27 years, I also started working on a master's degree at Dallas Seminary, which I finished in 2021. And then recently, in 2024, the beginning of 2024, the way I tell people is the commander-in-chief
Yeah.
redeployed us. So we're doing the same work, but we're doing it slightly differently and with a little more flexibility, being the executive director. And I do have a board that I answer to, but I can make a lot more decisions, and it's opened a lot of doors for
Mm.
the gospel. So it's been really very very fulfilling. I think in the last almost 2 years now, we've made a lot more contacts, especially in Israel for some reason, which we had not foreseen when we started the ministry, that we would be involved so much in Israel with the
Mm.
IDF, bringing supplies and ministering and praying for them and building friendships and sharing the gospel. So this has been a very exciting time.
Wow, wow, praise the Lord. So your ministry focus when in Shalom and Messiah when you first began was it more focused on educating Christians and on the Jewish significance of
It,
Christianity
it
or
still is. It still
so
is.
mhm.
Y- Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead,
Oh no.
finish your question.
Oh no, no, yeah, or because I know you mentioned that you weren't expecting the Jewish evangelism or more context in Israel to be where it is today. So do you feel like that was just kind of a natural
Well,
outworking of your ministry?
mission statement is expose and fight anti-Semitism, equip and mobilize Christians,
Mhm.
and serve Jewish people and lead them to Messiah.
Mm.
So that basically
It
is
covers
as
everything.
it hasn't changed.
Right, right, right.
It hasn't changed. We continue to equip Christians to fight anti-Semitism and to use what they learn in Jewish outreach.
Mm,
That's been my goal. And I want to see Jewish people saved. That's
right.
what I want to see, Jewish people saved and find their Messiah. But what's happened is that the Lord has opened a lot of doors in Israel, and we just go through those doors,
Mm,
raising funds to help equip some of the soldiers with defensive stuff so they can, be safe on the front. Because I tell people all the time, all my donors, I tell them, I said, listen, we have to keep them safe. We have to keep them alive so we have a chance to share and they have a chance to respond. Because once you're dead, you're dead. So
right.
we're doing what we can to keep the reservists alive so we can share. And I had opportunities already in Israel to get together. Our ministry rents a home in Upper Galilee with two other ministries, and I had the opportunity to do like a gatherings, a barbecue dinner, and then sharing my story, my testimony, and giving away Hebrew New Testaments to all the soldiers. And so it's things that I never thought I would be doing.
Wow. So you mentioned that you help out in one of your in your mission statement for your ministry, you help out Jewish people with giving them the gospel. I mean, that's a very essential component of your ministry, but also blessing them physically, whether it's helping the IDF soldiers, with aid or materials and things of that nature, being a blessing to the Jewish people physically. I guess a lot of Christians, they view this idea that the only thing we should be doing with the Jewish people is giving them the gospel because they're unsaved, right? And why should we come alongside them materially and bless them, as you're doing with your ministry? So, what would you say to people that have that kind of viewpoint, in terms of how our relationship should be with the Jewish people?
Well, first of all, a lot of Christians don't even want to share the gospel with Jewish people because
Mm,
they feel like they're, not very well prepared. They don't know how to do it. They're intimidated. They don't. They feel like the Jewish person is going to know a lot more about the Bible than they do, which is, it's a lie.
mm,
And we do have at shalomandmessiah.com, we do have resources on our website to help people overcome that obstacle. So, I invite people to visit our website for that. But when it comes to sharing the gospel only, I think if there's only one thing you can do with people, and that's sharing the gospel, that would be the most important choice. The problem with Jewish people in Christianity is that Jewish people are gospel resistant. Why? Because 2,000 years of anti-Semitism, historical anti-Semitism, church anti-Semitism,
mm,
has placed a wedge between the Christians and the Jews, where Jewish people, for the most part, have a
mm,
mistrust of Christians, especially those they don't know. So if a Christian Gentile comes to a Jewish person and say, "Hey, I want to tell you about Jesus," they're going to go, "Talk to the hand. I'm not interested. I'm Jewish."
right,
So
right,
just doing that might be if that's all you do, it's still the best option because that's the gift that never stops giving. It's eternal life. But
mm,
with Jewish people, you got to be careful because of that reputation that Christians have, which many Christians would not hold to any of those views, as some of those that I expose in my book. But still, to the Jewish community, the Jewish people at large, that's the way they're perceived. So that's
mm,
something they need to be aware of. Uh,
right,
but when it comes to doing humanitarian work, some organizations, and there's one in particular that advertises on TV, and they get a lot of funding. I mean, a lot of funding from Christians who are unaware that they absolutely do not share the gospel.
mm,
Some organizations are humanitarian only, and I think there's nothing wrong with doing humanitarian work, but you really need to do both, because
mm,
at the end of the day, Jewish or not Jewish, at the end of the day, when you try to reach people, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care.
mm,
And so we've been going to Israel now for a year and a half. During the war, we brought supplies, we identified needs. I came back, raised more funds, purchased more equipment, more supplies, a couple of ambulances, drones, helmets, vests, things that they need. And then we actually send some of it, but we also go back and bring it ourselves, and we meet with the soldiers. And it's what can be defined as ministry of presence. We're
mm,
there, and they keep looking at us going like, you're back. Yeah, why are you here? We're at
Right.
war. And say, well, we're here because we need to be here to encourage you, to provide you with what you need, and to see how we can help further. And then so it makes a big difference. And
Right.
that is what has allowed us at Shalom and Messiah to earn the right to speak, because we
Mm.
have been like Pastor Brendan Holthouse, who's also working with our ministry in partnership with us. I got it from him. He said, Olivier, we as Christians today, 2025, 2024, 2025, we need skin in the game. A lot of Christians will say, I'll pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I'll send $100 and then go back to watch Netflix or whatever, or, whatever I'm doing. And that's great. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray. We need prayer. Finances, our ministry would not run without the help of all the people that support us financially on a
Mm.
daily basis. And we're so humbled by it, and,
Mm.
and so encouraged. But at the days we live in, when you look at current events and the news and what's happening, and you and I were talking offline about the recent coming on the scene, the election of
Mm.
Zoran Mamdani as mayor of New York. I keep thinking the Jewish people wanted a king, God gave him Saul. The New York people wanted a mayor, God gave him Zoran Mamdani.
Mm.
You'll get who you deserve. You'll get who you want. It might not be the one that I would have placed, but God allowed it to happen, and God is still in control. So we'll
Mm.
see what's going to happen. But all this happening in the backdrop here is making it very, very dangerous for Jewish people, more and more so that Christians today, and this has been my message for a while now, but Christians today, Gentile Christians, need to have skin in the game. They need to
Mm.
pray, they need to support, they need to be involved themselves. They need to do something, even if it's just reaching out to their Jewish community where they live, calling the rabbi, say, hey, we've got your back, going across the street to their Jewish neighbors, Jewish friends, say, hey, I know you're Jewish. I'm a Christian. I go to this church. We love Israel. We love the Jewish people. If there's anything we can do, let us know.
Mm. Yeah, man, that you bring up a lot of really good points. I know you mentioned that a lot of the Jewish people, because of the historical anti-Semitism within Christendom, they are in a sense turned off by the Christian message, because on the one hand we want to give the gospel to everyone, but on the other hand we're spewing things. I mean, not all Christians obviously, but historically speaking, Christendom at large has either been apathetic towards the Jewish people and all the persecution that they've been going through, or they've been adding to it, or if even going further, they've been the root of it. And so when you add up all these things, it almost seems like a natural cause or a natural effect of all of those things, that the Jewish people don't really want to hear the gospel. And then you also bring up a good point that, in a sense, it almost seems like an opportunity to give them the gospel, because they're going through so much in terms of hatred, anti-Semitism, that when they see someone like you, or someone like a Gentile Christian who's supporting them, who's coming alongside them amidst the widespread hatred, the propaganda, the lies, the slander, that they're saying, oh, this is different than how the world is acting. Why are they doing this? It almost seems like that's fertile ground to present the gospel. Is that a
Oh
would you agree
yes,
with
oh
that?
absolutely. It's again, it gives us the right to speak, because we show that we're not just praying or sending a check. We're actually. I mean, I get on a plane, I fly for 12 hours. It's not exactly, I mean, I'm not suffering, but but still,
Mm-hmm.
I get on a plane. I'm away from home. I'm staying in in a different location, and I'm there for about a week to 10 days, and I just go there to help people, and it's like a mission trip. You show, and I've been in Israel 1, 2, 3 times since the war, October 7, 2023, and uh, I uh, I I just I will keep going because there's so many needs. But again, it's helping change the way Jewish people perceive some of the Christians, and we need that. We need to
Right.
have if we want to rebuild the bridges that have been burnt by 2,000 years of anti-Semitism. We need to show that true Bible-believing Christians are interested in helping, loving, having compassion, and it's not just taking the gospel again. That's the most important part of the equation. But just taking the gospel sometimes can be very awkward. Because people will go like, yeah, I'm just another project. You're going to go back to your church and say, hey, I shared with 15 more people today,
Mm.
whatever that means. So uh, it's people we're talking about. It's not just another number.
Right. That's, yeah, very good point. So one of the first topics you touch on in your book, Anti-Semitism in the End Times, is church history in relation to some of the anti-Semitic fervor that existed from the very, very early church. And so I think this is a really good segue to get into that topic. And I read in your book some of the quotes. We have quotes from Ignatius, Tertullian, Origin of Alexandria, John Chrysostom, and Augustine. And if I could just read one of the quotes that you mentioned from John Chrysostom, because I mean this quote is really
Nasty.
it's a nasty quote. Yes, yes, that's to put it lightly, right? So it says, he said, and by the way, Augustine is a contemporary, like you mentioned in your book, of John Chrysostom. And
Right.
so he quotes, "The synagogue is worse than a brothel. It is the den of scoundrels and the repair of wild beasts, the temple of demons devoted to idolatrous cults, the refuge of brigands and debauchees, and the cavern of devils. It is a criminal assembly of Jews, a place of meeting for the assassins of Christ, a house worse than a drinking shop, a den of thieves, a house of ill fame, a dwelling of iniquity, the refuge of devils, a gulf and abyss of perdition. I would say the same thing about their souls. As for me, I hate the synagogue. I hate the Jews for the same reason. Men who are lustful, rapacious, greedy, perfidious, bandits, inveterate murderers, destroyers, men possessed by the devil, they have surpassed the ferocity of wild beasts, for they murder their offspring and immolate them to the devil." So that is a quote that you brought up in your book.
I wish he could tell us really how he feels.
I mean, the I'm but the Holy Spirit and the fruits of the Spirit should make any Christian who says this about anybody say, I mean, retract. I mean, the fact that he was able to say this about anybody is,
I hate the synagogue. I hate the Jews for the same reason. He is basically completely ignoring Matthew 5:43 and 44. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. If the Jews were to persecute him, he sees him as the enemy. That's fine. That's fair. He can. I give him that much. But if that's the case, as a Christian, you should pray for them and love them. And there was no sign of that. Now, John Chrysostom is still to this day revered as one of the top-notch. They call him the golden mouth orator in the Catholic Church. I mean, he's a big shot, and it's completely ignored. It's like it brushed over, ignored. Nobody talks about it. But guess what? My people, they know about those quotes, and they see like not only it was said, but the fact that it continues to be ignored, it shows like, hey, if you ignore it, basically, you know. Silence. I think it was Elie Wiesel, the Holocaust survivor and Nobel Prize winner, author and activist, Elie Wiesel. He said that I think it's him who said, "Silence is complicity."
Right. And what's even worse is I'm seeing a lot of people, and this is within the younger generation. I've been paying a lot of attention to the shifts, and I'm sure you have as well, of anti-Semitism in the younger generation that's upcoming. Whether they claim Christianity, they use the phrase "Christ is King," and it's, I mean, Christ is operating in his high priest ministry. Yes, he's sovereign over, let's say, the universal kingdom, but he hasn't touched down and physically reign. He's not physically reigning yet. He will be. So yes, Christ is king in the sense of he is king over the universal kingdom, but he's not operating in that yet. But they're using that phrase not just to say, yeah, Christ is sovereign, but they're using it in a way to demote or to delegitimize the Jewish people. And so, and then they'll jump to Revelation 2:9. They'll jump to Revelation 3:9. They'll say Jewish people are the synagogue of Satan. So it almost seems like they're trying to bring this fervor that John Chrysostom had back into Christianity, or they have this same view of Jewish people. And I guess to your point, how do you how do we reach these people that are so have been blinded by this? And you brought up in Romans 11:11 that Paul, he wanted Gentile Christians to provoke the Jewish people to jealousy. And how are we doing this by saying these things? So I guess my question to you is, how do we how do we combat this anti-Semitic fervor within the church that's rising at, I mean, an exponential rate that, I mean, especially since Charlie Kirk has died, an exponential rate um that we've never seen before. How do we combat this?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's since Charlie Kirk has died. I think I think more accurately would be since October 7th,
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah, good point.
I
Yes.
mean, I see what you're saying about Charlie Kirk, and there's definitely another surge,
Mm,
in that tsunami. But I think it really, days after the attack by
right.
Hamas, we saw Israel responding, and then the whole world turning, going like genocide, starvation, occupation,
Very
and
quickly.
yeah,
Very quickly.
within 2 or 3 days, and it's
Right.
been going on. And then U.S. campuses picked up on it, and from the river to the sea, and all those different things that have been happening. Uh, uh, you know, there's really going to be two kinds of people in the area of people who don't know about something. There's those who are unaware and don't want to learn, and those who are unaware and are willing to learn and maybe have their heart and their mind changed. Uh,
Mm,
I used to passionately, fervently talk to anybody who disagreed with me on a topic and try to educate them and bring them historical facts, and spend time on the phone, online, and emails, in person. And I realize there are people that I mean, I'm 66. You know, I don't have time for this nonsense. If
mm,
somebody really wants to change and they want to be exposed to the truth, the biblical truth about our condition, our need for Jesus, biblical truth about Israel and Jewish people in God's plan, and everything that's connected to that, I will spend the time. I'll drive several hours out of my way to meet with somebody if they're genuinely interested.
mm.
But if they're not, I'm just going to just say, you know what? Think what you think, and I'll just pray for them, because God can change them. But I only have so many hours in a day and so much energy. I'm going to spend it on those who actually are interested in changing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that's me, okay? That's not for everybody. There are people that are, willing to stay up all night online in a chat room to discuss things, and that's their thing. Okay, well, that's good. If you have the time and the energy, and you can do it, that's great. But we're at a place, Jonathan, where I think, unfortunately, and I never thought I would get to that place, more than trying to change people's heart, I think we're almost past that right now. Uh, it's more like, what can we do to reach those who have a heart for Jewish people, have a heart for Israel? And as I've been saying lately, have these people pray, go directly to God, and ask God themselves, Lord, how can I be a 21st century Oscar Schindler? How can I be a
Mm.
21st century Corrie ten Boom? How can I make a
Wow.
difference with my Jewish friends, Jewish loved ones?
Wow.
Because I don't think that anti-Semitism is going away. I think Pandora's box was open on October 7th, and I mean, it never was gone. I mean, it was always there, but it was increasingly getting worse. But what happened on October 7th just multiplied it, and I don't think it's going away. I think it's only going to go away when Jesus returns at the end of the tribulation.
Mhm.
There was a survey that was conducted in the early 2025, January or February, I forgot, by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and they, in that survey, they determined, after doing all the math and everything, and they're pretty good at gathering numbers, that 46%, that's almost a year ago, I'm sure it's up to 50 now, if not more,
Mhm.
46% of all adult in the world harbors some sort of anti-Jewish sentiment.
Huh.
46%. Jonathan, what that tells us is that we are living in the days of Zechariah 12:3 being fulfilled,
Mm,
that Jerusalem will become a stone of stumbling, a heavy stone, and all the countries, the people of the world will go against Jerusalem. We
mm,
are at the 46%, probably more 50 by now, 50% mark, halfway there for the fulfillment of the entire world going against Israel. So that's why I say I don't think it's going away. I don't think it's going to stop. We have to denounce, we have to expose, we can't support anything that would promote that agenda. That's why I think that, conservatives, and I just wrote an article on our blog, and I did a video that's going to post probably next week on how Bible believing Christians should distance themselves, and conservatives should distance themselves from Tucker Carlson, who's now inviting a Holocaust denier, Hitler lover
mm.
on a show, and that's just one of many people, and I document that on the article and the video. So we expose, we denounce. I don't want to cancel anybody, because canceling people, it would be doing on that to them what they tried to do on us the last few years, and that's just not. It's just not right. And then, in the First Amendment, we have to be careful with that. So it's not about canceling; it's about not supporting, not sending money, not watching, not and denouncing, saying this is wrong. So
Right.
we have to have a voice. We have to be active, but I don't think it's going away. I think right now our energy should be spent in how can we make sure our Jewish friends know that we're there for them.
Mm. Wow. So yeah, that is it's a sad state that we're in, and you brought up a
And by
lot
the
of.
way, if you had asked me that 5 years ago, I would have not have given you the same answer.
Wow. So October 7th, we crossed the line essentially right after
Yes.
October 7th, and uh, so do you see any parallels between, or I mean, do people that you know also, do they see a lot of parallels between Nazi Germany and when they crossed the line, and how anti-Semitism was a fringe movement. Hitler was a fringe guy, and but at some point there was a line that was crossed, and he was platformed, he was mainstreamed, and anti-Semitism and anti-Israel hatred was also mainstreamed. Do you feel like we've also crossed the line in America? And yeah, what is your opinion on that?
100%. Remember, Hitler did not take power by force. Hitler was elected. Okay.
Mhm,
So we got a Zoran Mamdani elected mayor of New York, an anti-Semite who promotes boycott, divestment, sanction,
mhm.
who supports the Palestinian false narrative, who cannot denounce Hamas publicly, who has rubbed elbows with a lot of supporters of Hamas and even terrorists.
By the way,
Uh,
I'll have links to everything that you just said, because I do have links to all of those articles stating exactly what he said. So for the audience, I have those links. I'll provide that for you in the
And so
description. But
should
yes.
you. That's good. That's good. I'm
Mm,
glad you're doing that. And then so you got this guy, mayor of New York. The guy, his last name is Omar. His first name I forgot. Ran at the same time for mayor of Minneapolis, where of course you have Ilan Omar in
mm,
Minnesota, and he lost. He did not
mm,
get it, which of course got her upset. And
right.
then she said that she was going to have it's discrimination, it's racism, they play all those cards.
Hmm.
But you get this Zoran Mamdani, it's going to embolden more people in blue areas to do the same thing, and it's going to grow. And alongside that, you've got this big surge in Islam, in building a lot of mosques. It's happening in North Dallas right now at a rate that I cannot even keep up with.
Mm,
I'm not telling you anything you don't know because you live in Houston. So
mm,
this is
mm,
also a big community over there.
yeah. Mm.
Um,
Right in our
and
back door.
yeah. And so you've got that alongside a guy like Mamdani. It's going to continue to grow. If people are wondering what it was to live in the 30s and 40s, well, wonder no more. We're back in the
Mm,
30s and 40s. We have arrived. I said that 25 years ago when I started studying that anti-Semitism and writing about it and then doing conferences and books. I said that, I said, it's going to get so bad. It's going to get to the point where we're going to be in the 30s and 40s again. And when I said that 25 years ago, I was convinced that I was right, but I did not know I would live to see it. I
Mm,
thought it would be like maybe in a tribulation, but now we're not even in a tribulation. I'm pre-trib, I know the rapture is going to happen before that. So
mm,
I know we're not in the tribulation. Uh, but it's that bad. And people say, well, the Nazis were worse. Well, the only thing that the Nazis had that are not in place right now were death camps, because
mm,
everything else were there. And there are more people with a hatred of Jews or Judeophobia today than they were in Nazi Germany. I did a comparison. And I think at the time of Nazi Germany, there was, I believe, probably 69 million Germans. And out of 69 million Germans, it's a big country, they were 10% of the Germans, which is, not a small number, okay,
right.
were Nazi members, members of the Nazi party, card holding Nazi members. They were sympathizers. And you could say that those who sympathize with the Nazi ideology would bump that up to maybe, if you're very, very, uh, uh, you know, uh, if you want to really give it more, you would say 30% of Germans, either 10% were Nazi card holders and another 20% were sympathizers, those who pushed Jewish people to their death. They helped the Nazis, or those who also look the other way. Because if you look the other way as a bystander, you only facilitate the work of a perpetrator. You
Mm,
basically you are a co-perpetrator by being a bystander, and so maybe 30%.
mm,
Uh, Compared to that, what's happening in Israel right now, 77% of all quote unquote Palestinians, and a more accurate description would be Arabs, because Palestine is an invented country.
right.
We can get to that another time, but
Yeah.
77%, not just in Gaza, 77% of all Palestinians in Gaza, in the disputed territories, and in Israel, 77% believe that Hamas should not disarm, and
Mm,
Hamas should still be in control of the Gaza Strip.
mm,
77%, as opposed to maybe, if you want to be kind, 30%. So it's more than double. It's more like 7 times. But if you want to be kind, it's okay, maybe 30%, more than double than what we
mm.
had in Nazi Germany. So outside of the death camps, I think we've surpassed the evil of Nazi Germany.
Wow. And you brought up in your book too like the classical anti-Semitism versus the new anti-Semitism, where everything is flipped, right? So what the Nazis, who were, the perpetrators, and the Jewish people were the victims, now we flipped the narrative, or the
Right?
mainstream has flipped the narrative to say the Jewish people are the Nazis. But meanwhile, we have direct links to the Nazis from, Yasser Arafat to the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Al Husseini, who was directly tied to Nazism, and to Hitler himself, who had direct connections. So the propaganda, how did people get how did we flip this narrative so well? Is this because they have become masterful propagandists, and is this because of the connection to Hitler and his ability to also be a masterful propagandist? Do you think that has kind of been passed down the line, so to speak, on the Palestinian side? Do you see any connection there?
Two things. First of all, the accusation of the Jews being the new Nazis in the Middle East, this has been going on for probably at least 20 or maybe even 30 years. Since I remember that I started getting involved in that, that accusation was already being put in place under the new anti-Semitism. Uh, Look at some of the pictures that came out of October 7th hostage situation, and see the the Israelis that came out of the Gaza tunnels, and look at their face and their bodies, and you tell me, who is the Nazi in the Middle East now? I mean,
Mm,
a picture is worth 1,000 words. You look at those guys; they came out; they were skin and bones, and they looked just like they'd come out of the camps.
mm,
So why is the world not seeing this? Well, some people are seeing it, and I'm hoping, but probably not enough. But here's the thing, Jonathan, and I think it's at the core of this whole crisis is the fact that we're dealing with a spiritual battle.
Right.
It is a
Yes.
spiritual fight that we're fighting. We're fighting against Satan and his demons, trying to completely destroy the Jews and destroy Israel. And why is he so, pardon my pun, hell bent on on destroying the Jews? Is because he knows that at the end of the tribulation, 7-year tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble, the Jews who would have survived will become the Israel of God of Galatians 6:16. The all Israel will be saved of Romans 11:26,
Mhm.
and they will call upon the one who they have pierced, Zechariah 12:10, and say, Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, just like Jesus said,
Mm.
surely you will not see me again in Matthew.
Matthew
Surely you
23.
will not see me again until you say, and he's talking to the Jewish people, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Right.
So Satan knows that. He knows his Bible better than most Christians, and he knows that when that happens, when the Jews call on Jesus, he returns, second coming, end of the tribulation, and Satan gets put into retirement. And he's
Mm.
like it's like most people go like, oh, I can't wait to go into retirement. I'll be going to Hawaii, I'll move to Florida. Satan is moving down. He's
Right.
moving down to the pit,
Amen.
okay, to hell, to the lake of fire and brimstone, and he's there for eternity, and he will be suffering just like all those who will be there who have rejected Jesus.
Mm.
So he's not looking forward to that, but he's smart. He's not that smart, but he's smart enough to understand that, hey, if the key to me being thrown in a lake of fire is the Jews calling on Jesus, if Jesus doesn't come back, my job is safe. For him not to come back, I got to make sure the Jews don't call him. So there is a mix of getting the Jewish people uh, 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 killing the Jews, destroying Israel and killing the Jews, which we've seen an increase of in the last few years, but
Yeah.
also placing this animosity, this wedge between Christianity and Judaism, so that the Jews will just on their own say anything but Jesus. And that's why you have right now, you have the Jewish people basically not being interested in Jesus,
Mm.
and so that Satan is either getting Jews killed, getting Israel destroyed. He was not going to succeed on that, or getting the Jews on their own to say anything but Jesus.
Mm. Right. And so, man, those are such good points, because during the first coming, before the first coming of Jesus hinged on the Jewish people existing. I mean, he had to come from the line of David, the tribe of Judah. So if they didn't exist, then I mean, Jesus couldn't come in the first coming. Now, in the
Right.
second coming, not only does it hinge on them existing, but it also hinges on them confessing that he is the Messiah as a nation. So now you brought up a good point about the twofold thing happening, where he wants to wipe them off the face of the planet. I mean, that's one way to get them.
And remember, at the first coming, Satan already had on his agenda to corrupt the human race so that the line of David would not be clean for the Messiah with the sons of God with
The
the daughter of the
Nephilim.
man.
Right.
So he tried. He tried it. It did not succeed. And
Right.
now he's trying it again from a different perspective. He's got the same agenda.
Right, right. And you brought up such a good point of him wanting to place a wedge between Christianity and Israel, and that makes so much sense, because that we are the people that are going to give them the gospel. And once we get raptured, I mean, that we have the Gentile church. We also have, the Jewish believers as well that are going to be um spreading the gospel in Israel, and Satan sees this, and I mean, all hell breaks loose, so to speak, on his end, right? So his goal is to exterminate the Jewish people, and simultaneously get them to harden themselves against the gospel. So I mean, those are you bringing up such good points. This is ultimately very spiritual, and Christians, hopefully they can see this. They can see that this is deeply theological, deeply spiritual issue that's happening, and we don't want to come against what God is trying to do with the nation of Israel. We want to come alongside him, because we know that he has a plan to sanctify them, to restore them, to make them spiritually new again, and Yeah, just again, it goes back to us as Christians to wanting to come along. We should want to come alongside them and just be a blessing to them in that regard. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when you say that this is a deeply spiritual issue. And I know,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I wanted to get in some other topics. We want to talk about Mondani and all those things. I know we're running out of time here, so maybe we can bring you on another episode and we can talk about these issues. But before we go, did you have any other closing remarks? And then I can also close with one more thing. But if did you have any other closing remarks?
No, I just want to say, Jonathan, that I'm really, really encouraged by you uh, inviting me on your podcast, understanding the place of Israel in the Bible, knowing your Bible so well, knowing what's going on, because you're the next generation. You're a couple of years younger than me, and at least, and you're the next generation, and we need people like you. So I hope people will take you seriously and watch your podcast, because we need more people like you. I'd be delighted to be on your show again.
Mm,
If you have me, there's a lot more we can talk about. But at the end of the day, uh, the importance of Israel is clear. If anybody reads their Bible properly, with the proper hermeneutics of historical, grammatical approach, in with a consistent emphasis on context,
mm,
being consistent, of course, then
right.
you cannot avoid the fact that Israel is all throughout the Bible, and God is certainly not done with Israel. It opens the door for conversation on replacement theology. We can have another time, but
Mm,
uh, we uh, we need, as Christians. My final thought. I will repeat what I said earlier. We need to let our Jewish friends that we are available to help them, because that's going to open doors for the gospel. It's also going to show that we are basically. Another quote that I use often is, preach the gospel every day. If necessary, use words. Uh,
mm.
Show people how much you love them, how much you care, and earn their trust, and that will go a long way.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. This, I mean, very encouraging. And I really, really appreciate you coming on our show. And if you want to get Olivier Melnick's new book, Anti-Semitism in the End Times, you can find that book on Amazon. And you can also go to his website, shalominmessiah.org. And you can
.com.
find, oh, .com. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Shalominmessiah.com. And you can find his material a lot. You can also sign up for his newsletter. You have a 1 minute devotional as well that you do for the people that are there. And so I highly encourage you to check out Olivier Melnick's ministry, shalominmessiah.com.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Olivier, for coming on the show. And I can't wait to have you again to talk about some of these other issues that we had lined up. And God bless you.
Anytime. Be blessed.